there's a technology that uses like 5 different types of radiation to create an image, and DARPA created it decades ago, and it has like ionic radiation, ultraviolet, all of these different radiations are detected and put into like a video picture. And they played with the frequencies at DARPA, and they started seeing these beings, and they started calling it the spirit camera. Well, they played with it more and more and developed the technology, and they could actually see into adjacent dimensions to ours. They put it in satellites and have observed a solar system that looks like ours, except there's subtle differences. When we have recovered craft of supposedly some of the craft we've recovered, they appear to have been created on an atomic level, like they were just printed into reality. And they really can't explain how some of these metals and alloys were really created. And another thing that's been really strange is that when they've recovered gray aliens, the bodies have not been consistent. And it's not that they're coming from different locations, it's that they're being printed in different ways, and sometimes they're not even complete. And so some of the grays, when they've recovered bodies and done the autopsies, the esophagus or the trachea doesn't terminate to the lungs or the stomach, or what we perceive as a stomach. The organs aren't connected to each other. So why would they let us recover something like that? It seems like it's always trying to infuse mystery.
So this is why we have polarity, is because our willpower can't be developed to the degree that we need to evolve more rapidly without seeing these contrasts of positive and negative. They say the purpose of polarity is to develop the potential to do work. And the saga of polarity, its consequences and limits, were unimagined until experienced through the veiling between the conscious and unconscious mind. And that's why they call it a great experiment. We don't know where this is all going, or at least they didn't know when they started exploring this potential for, I believe it was a genetic experimentation happening with entities to sort of allow there to be this separation between the conscious and the unconscious, with a low level of communication happening between the two. Although there are forms of communication, that's why they call it the veil. You can still break through the veil in your mind and receive incredible information from the deeper aspects of yourself. Another example of very slow learning would be the planet Mars. And when Don Elkins asked, where do the people who were first like us on Earth come from? They said they came from Mars. And the entities of the Red Planet were attempting to learn the laws of love, just like Earth is right now. However, these tendencies of these people towards bellicose actions caused such difficulties in their atmospheric environment of their planet that it became inhospitable for third density experience. And they represented 1/2 of our population 75,000 years ago. 1/2 of the people on Earth were from Mars then. And more recently, now that we have billions of people more than we did back then, they seem to suggest in session 59 that billions of these people have been those from Maldek. So people who blew up their planet and people who made their planet inhospitable are the majority of who is here now. So you have to admit that we're kind of doing pretty well considering.
So we were taken since we were kids, and 3, 4, 5 years old. Maybe our first memory from 4, 5 years old, taken to a place that we call an oval room. It's a white room, and there were a bunch of kids there playing with toys. And there was a lady that took care of us, like a daycare, but a weird daycare. As kids, we never questioned. We just played and played with the other kids. And we started notice as we got older, like 8, 9, 10 years old. We started noticing that some of the kids had different abilities. So some of the kids, they could speak to you mentally. Some of the kids could lift objects or something like this. And we were not impressed because we grew up in that environment, going to that environment a lot. So for us, every kid could do it. And when we were back home, that's the weirdest part, because we kind of used our abilities in our day-to-day basis, but no one understood, not the adults and neither the kids. So we could not speak to anyone about it, even on our parents. Lyle's ability was tied to location. He could locate people anywhere in the timeline. So day, month, year, and place on Earth. And me, I could open portals to those dates. So we combine, he located, I'll open the portals, and then the agents would pass those portals. Okay, but not physically. That's not happen physically. What does it happen? It's a mental projection, may call that. So mentally, we should pass that portal, and our consciousness should jump into someone else's consciousness from that time. So I won't go physically. If I have a mission in 1734 Paris, France, I'm not going there physically with these clothes and the clothes from the agency. No, that's not how it happens. We stay physically in the agency and we open the portal and we go through mentally and we jumped into someone's consciousness in Paris 1700s. Okay? And there's a special occasion that we can make that jump. Some special occasions. There are a couple of agents that they are prepared to receive that jump. So some of their abilities, if I may call that, are to receive jumpers on them. So militaries and some other people, usually they are prepared to do that. Some, not all, please. Or if we're talking about regular people that are not prepared to receive that jump, they usually are in some pretty physically bad condition, that they are unconscious for some reason, or they drank too much, or drugs, or they are somehow about to die, like in a terminal condition. And then the jump happens, and then the mission happens, and I'm going to talk about that. And then we jump back.
It's part of the government, and it's the part that lets you know what you can and cannot say. I said, well, Chris, how much meat do we got left on the bone, brother? You know, are they going to let us say anything? Because he's always been kind of afraid of talking about stuff that really happened to him. Because, you know, they tell you things like, oh, yeah, we'll run a drill through your hand. Oh, that doesn't sound good. So anyway, the thing that really surprised me is that our friends in the government gave Chris far more latitude to disclose than I ever thought he was going to get. Let's talk about that.
Well, sure. Well, like the 29 Palms, there's a.
Where is that? What's going on?
That's in California, in the town of 29. In the 29 Palms region, not too far from Joshua Tree, and the Joshua Tree National Park. And theoretically, there's a wreckage of an ancient spacecraft that crashed there.
But it's a mothership.
It would be a mothership type ship.
How
yeah.
big might it be?
It might be one of these mile-long things, but that's a big wreckage pile. It's not scattered remains.
And you actually told me that there's several of these motherships.
There's a few that have crashed. And of course, the question is, are these accidental crashes, or were these brought down at some point in history? I mean, was it actually a result of warfare? Or, are these accidental vehicle crashes?
Amazing. So then you also said that we have old spaceships that we were given in trade with extraterrestrials. So that, in other words, we're coming across spaceships, we can dig up motherships, but then sometimes if we're trading with an extraterrestrial race, they may just donate stuff to us that they don't want anymore.
Oh, wow. This is a huge disclosure trap, isn't it? This is like...
We can't really say that.
Yeah, exactly. What you're not supposed to talk about. Old spaceships that we may have been given. But spaceships, My own personal speculation is that a lot of these spaceships that are out there are old. They're, measured in tens of thousands of years. Of course, there's new ones being produced all the time, but there's a lot of old ones out there too. By the time we got to Atlantean technology levels, we were building spaceships that left the planet. And I'd even say that there are humans out there today still exploring the universe that were launched then. And when you
I had a lot of that from Henry Deacon. That
and
was
so
one of the main things he talked about. Yep.
when you get the message through quantum entanglement that you're, 12,000 light years out or 12 million light years out, whatever it happens to be, and you're being told, hey, our civilization has collapsed. Well, what are you going to do? Are you going to just zip home to try to save the collapsing civilization? Or are you going to complete your mission and come home when you're supposed to come home? So we may have visitation some point in the future, who knows how far away that may be, of us, the human race, returning to Earth, having completed whatever mission they have and beyond.
Very cool. So I don't know how much you want to talk about this. Is that off?
Oh, the space fighter business?
Yeah.
Yeah, we shouldn't talk about the space fighter
Okay.
business. We shouldn't talk about building 2,597 space fighters that were mostly exported to third parties.
We can't talk about that.
No, don't do that.
So anyway, this Tesla turbine was supposedly his big invention that led to anti-gravity. And then it was conveyed to his partner, Otis Carr. And Otis Carr was the inventor of the elevator. According to Ralph Ring, Otis Carr trained with Tesla. He got this turbine, and then he built this thing called the OTC-1. That's his initials, Otis T. Carr. The OTC-1 was a flying saucer. Extraterrestrials built this technology so they can go take you on a fun trip. Hopefully it's fun. Mine weren't fun. We'll get into that. It's some bad stuff. Not for children. We'll get to that. I'll give the children warning when we get there. But I believe that what happened to me is that these dreams I was having, similar to Ralph Ring, a ship could pick me up. If ETs, they have it built in. That's the technology. It's built into the saucer. And Chris and I have talked about, I think I can say this, right? That the real ET stuff is very difficult for humans to pilot. You get this transdimensional, a lot of insiders, we don't even have to go with Chris. A lot of insiders have told me this. You get transdimensional disorder. It's very disorienting. There's some type of cosmic consciousness that the power supply of the craft automatically plunges you into. And so there's been an interesting challenge in terms of how do you make a flying ship like a hover car that doesn't create time travel? If you create if you create a bubble of energy that the ship is inside, you're traveling in time. But if you create a stream of bubbles that shoot away from the ship, the time dilation only happens inside the little bubbles. It doesn't happen in the ship. So you can travel without traveling in time. And that's the kind of stuff we're going to build first. We don't want to build a time machine. Imagine what would happen if Justin Trudeau had a time machine, right? Or whoever. Klaus Schwab. I will go back in time. Okay, great idea. Yeah, that sounds awesome. Kill everyone who stands up to me. Okay, great. That's the kind of stuff we got to watch out for. So, I had so many of these dreams, and it wasn't just dreams of saucers landing in my backyard. I had dreams of horror where very, very bad things happened, and I wrote poems about them, and I made drawings about it, and I'm going to show you those drawings.
It's my least favorite thing to do is talk about myself, so I'll probably cut it short. But what started this journey was, it went all through childhood. Since I was 5 years old, I was having contact. But I had a near-death experience at the age of 25. And I went through the tunnel everybody talks about, and I didn't stop to talk. I went all the way to the source and ended up in this plane of bliss. And it's this golden white light, and it's pure consciousness and energy. It's not male or female. It doesn't have a laptop taking notes and lightning bolts to punish people. That's not what it is. After that near-death experience, I had a lot of white light experiences. And at 5 years old, actually, I was dying in the hospital, and a being kept coming to me, and she's all dressed in blue, just beautiful being. And kept coming to me and she stroked my head and talked to me, and I was dying in the hospital, and doctors kept saying he's not going to make it, and she'd come to me, and the last thing she did, she gave me a cup of this. It was in like a little crystal glass or something, and it looked like ice cream, but it wasn't cold. And she told me to eat it, and then I was never sick after that. I just never got sick after that. This is Melia, and Melia is with the Orion Council of Light. And what Melia did, I was sitting in the bathtub meditating, and I go, I just want to know, what is my connection? What is this about? And I don't care if it kills me. I want to know the answer to this. I was at that state, and all of a sudden this beam comes through the wall and hits me right in the heart, right in the chest. And then 3 big gold balls came down and hit me. And next thing you know, I was up on the ship talking with her, and it was a plasma ship. It wasn't a physical ship. And I told her, I said, what's my connection here? And she said, you have everything you need. We've given you everything you need. And the information was in the gold balls of energy. And she said, you can't stay here very long, and because you won't be able to go back. You won't be able to reassimilate on the earth and deal with that if you stay here too long. And they sent me back, and what was interesting is they sent me back, and I got out of the tub, and I told her I want physical proof that this is real, that this has really happened. This isn't some dream or something else. So I had this big burn mark in the middle of my chest and it was the higher energy interacting with my physical body, and it wasn't painful. There was no pain involved in it. It was interesting. And it morphed from this burn mark to a triangle, and then to a heart, and then it made a yellow crust on top, and it went away. And I had doctors look at it, and they go, that looks like a radiation burn. Are you sick? Are you ill? And I said, no, I feel great. I don't feel anything, but she told me this is one of their ships. She told me that those 3 gold balls returned all of my memories. And that's how I can say I flew by the earth before it was solid, because the memories go all the way back to then. And we were doing Star Wars stuff before the earth was physical. That's how old this stuff is, the technology and things. One of the master teachers said to me, I was talking about something, he goes, what's worth joy? And I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, how much gold, would you give for joy and everything? Would you give it up? And I said, yeah, I guess, And he goes, well, you're always giving it up, because that's your natural state. And so we're letting people steal our joy. We're giving up our joy by getting in all these dramas. And in the core of every person here is this loving, joyous, powerful, manifesting God or goddess. That's who we really are. And it's under layers of all this other stuff. Get rid of the stuff, you raise your frequency, you connect with Creator. It's that simple. And so we need to rise in our frequencies, and don't get into all this division stuff and all. It's not worth it. It's not. What you're giving up is your gold. Your pure love, joy, and bliss. You're giving up who you are. And so we need to get away from that and get really centered in our own bliss, and let people have their stories. I love that saying, who would you be without your story? People have these stories, and they're really attached to their story. I go, that's just a story. It's not who you are. And you have to listen to me. I have to tell you my victim story, I go, no, I don't, because that's not who you are. And you need to let that go, And so we need to get into that state. And it's real important that we get there. And there's a lot of help to help us get there.